Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I'm so happy to be back after a long gap at BSP Live, and now I promise you we'll be here regularly. Today, before I begin, I want to tell you that we have been talking about leadership transformation, leadership through personal development and otherwise. And today, in this series, we have with us a global expert leadership coach. Welcome, Shweta. And before Shweta comes on the mic, let me give you a small introduction of the big job she does. Now, Shweta is, as I said, a certified life and transformational coach. She is also a global speaker. She has a creative bent of mind, and she has a very good, rich, and varied experience of 20 plus years, where initially she started with sales and marketing, and then she came to proper branding and public relations. She started her work in the Middle East and India, and her uh, first main client was the Royal Embassy of Saudi Arabia, and then she did some work for the royal family of Saudi Arabia before she came to India. Welcome, Shweta. Welcome to today's show. And we are looking forward to a very interesting conversation with you on how to lead or how to become a leader through coaching. So, to begin with, Shweta, I would like to know, uh, also, I'm sure the viewers want to know, what is it that inspired you to become a leadership coach? And that too, specifically specializing in branding and public relations.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Brigadier Sushil, for having me here with you on this amazing platform and addressing especially the LinkedIn, I would say the friends, the circle that we have. Thank you everyone for spending time listening to me. Uh, I would say the coaching happened to me by a fluke. I was looking for a business platform. I was looking for a business proposal, and I wanted to do something to do with the education because I see a lot of flaws. We have this amazing country, rich culture when it comes to education, but still, I'm not very happy the way traditionally the education which is being carried out now. I think we were exposed to a very diverse way of learning, thanks to my parents, to my family. So we were given to read different kind of books. We were given the ideology to learn a subject in a very different way, which is not taught in schools. My father had studied psychology. He studied engineering as well as medicines. So we had like a very different atmosphere at home, which not everybody is privileged to. So that is what I was looking for. I was looking for something to do with education, and I happened to see a board which said coaching. And I thought, okay, it's a coaching institute, so let me go and get the business proposal. And that's how it all started. And it came that, it was a life coaching institute. And that's how it all started, learning from them. And they, with the due course of time, how it got shaped was because I had worked a lot in the industry, wherein I started with the sales and marketing. And in my DNA, the business and the professionalism, it runs in the veins, I would say. I'm born in the land of dal makhani and chole bhature. So we are born with the ideology that you have to do something of your own, or even if you're doing a job, you have to own your position. So that was very much there. So the inborn leadership qualities which were there, how they helped me to grow professionally while I was working, while I was doing the job. So everything that I learned in my 20 plus years of experience, even while working for the royalties or working for the luxury retail for the hospitality industry. I also worked very briefly for the Habitat World and the Imperial Hotel. So my mix of the experience from the life and with the study of psychology from life coaching, I combined it all together and wanted to create a difference in lives of others in the journey of their professional growth, be it for their business through BNL Club or through Coach Shweta's personal brand creation for others. So that is how it got generated. That how can I help others now, and how can they flourish in their professional journey? So that is how the idea of life coaching turned into the coaching, which was very specific, which was how do you create your personal brand, how do you become a leader who can inspire others. First of all, you become a rightful leader, and then how do you take everybody else with you and make them, help them grow in their respective positions. So that's how it all started, and it's been doing wonderful. I'm happy that I've been able to help many other people, and that's how the journey started, and it's going on ever since.
Very good. So nice. And now that we are together and we met in a networking group called HNP, I also see that you're a good networker, and leaders certainly need to be good networkers also. So, yes. And before we proceed, for the benefit of some of the people who may not have met me before, I'm Brigadier Basin. I'm your host today, and I am a military inspired leadership and transformational coach. I've served the Indian Army for 34 years. And in the 18 years that have followed, I've been practicing what I learned in the Army for 18 years in the corporate and education worlds. So I am also a leadership trainer and coach. I've been mostly looking at leadership and teamwork in outbound experience with experiential learning as a pedagogy. And coaching has come to me very, very recently when I started a program based on uh, military leadership. And this program is called Battlefield to Boardroom. It is aimed at mid career professionals who they begin as individuals, but when you come into a leadership role, either you've just acquired a leadership role or you're about to get into a leadership role, you suddenly find that you are able to perform very well, but you're not able to lead. And as a leader, your own performance goes into the background. What matters is how do you lead others and how do you get them into uh, performing. And that is where leadership really plays up. So that's what I do. I also see Colonel Aditya come in, and he's also one of our HNP co-hosts. So thank you, Aditya, for joining in. Yeah, okay. Ranbir Yadav, another school friend of mine, has just joined in. He's from my school, Scenic School, Kapurthala. So welcome, Ranbir. Okay. Right. So, yes, let's proceed and tell me more about how do you really uh, transform people, and what does that transformation really involve?
Well, I think the transformation starts from everyone's mind. The moment they decide that I want to do something the way I've been leading my life, be it running their business, be it their professional decisions, or what and how it is impacting the personal space of theirs. Because when something goes wrong professionally, it definitely impacts your personal life. It definitely impacts your financial health, physical health, and your energy. I grew up in hills, so I have a very strong spiritual streak, and I definitely believe that we are surrounded by the energy. So the lesson that people learn in public relations and networking, that you are highly influenced by the people you keep around you. So that's what I tell people, that the first person that you're keeping around you is yourself. So make yourself absolutely right, positive, and motivational enough for yourself. And then find rest of the four people who can create that impact for you. If you do not have the right personal space or the professional space, go find people who can actually pull you up and not pull you down. Until you don't find them, and if you can't just find even 3 to 4 people who can be inspiring enough, you need to step out, you need to do the networking, you need to go and find those people. Follow your passion, which people say. That passion is basically to give you the clue, where will you find that tribe of yours. Absolutely, the four individual values. So you, once you find those core values, I help them identify those core values of theirs. I help them identify what is it that they need to fix in their life in order to grow. So my primary aim remains to bring the professional health, which in turn fixes their rest of the life. So I go very specifically into creating their branding, creating a unique positioning for themselves. So once you start to align with your core values, you outshine everything else and everyone around you. So once you become your better version, that's how it's not the end of the journey, that's where you start your journey. And that is what has been my model of working. Even under BNL Club or be it under Coach Shweta, I follow the same method, same rules. In fact, once I was listening to your recording, that are you future ready? And I wanted to take this opportunity to ask you, that how do you think that the leaders being future ready, and also just now when you said na, that you do military inspired leadership, how has that helped you, or how do you create that kind of difference in the corporate leadership? What is it that you do when it comes to you? Because you see, I'm not from the military background, I'm not from the defense. So my methodology is different. My methodology has been inspired by my background, my work profile, keeping good relations with people, paying attention to the marketing. How do you, everything is and everyone is sellable. How do you sell yourself? That means, how do you sell your credibility, your skills? How do you bring it front? Selling means, how do you how do you bring it to the forefront wherein it gets highlighted? How do you take advantage of that in a positive stride? How do you escape, scale up in your life professionally, which definitely does impact you personally as well. But I want to know this thing from you now. How are you helping people creating that difference? It's very
Okay.
interesting. When I read it,
So
it really intrigued me. So I want to know.
thank you. I'll first talk about the military leadership before I come to the future part of it, because let's understand that part. You know, every leader, whatever you are, whether you are a leader, political leader, a bureaucratic leader, a sports leader, anyone, you certainly face all types of challenges. And military leaders are the only leaders amongst all types of leaders who actually take their followers or take their teams or troops, what we prefer to call troops, to war. That means you get your job done through absolute challenges, including the danger of death, that no other leader has to do. So, therefore, our mistakes come back in coffins. And because we can't make those mistakes, and because there are two things: one is, you make a mistake, it costs lives. And secondly, when you make mistakes, that is a uh, danger to our security of the country. With that, the leadership training in the army is not done over a workshop, is not done in a classroom. It is done every single day, and no organization can afford to invest that type of time and money on training that the army does. Right from the day we joined NDA, 4 years of training. I've been telling people of examples. Every minute of the day, there is something happening that is giving you lessons of leadership. So, the first time I ever heard a lecture on leadership, I had already put in 13 years of service. I was in the staff college where the commandant of staff college gave a lecture on leadership. And that was also strategic leadership, senior leadership, because after staff college, they prepare you for senior leadership. So that is one thing where military leadership is different. The second thing is that when I came into the corporate world, and I'll tell you, I didn't come to the corporate world for leadership or leadership training. I was inspired totally by children, and I came in the education world to do something for children. Idea was to do youth development. But when I discovered for myself that schools, colleges were not uh, inclined to spare their people for so long or nor invest money, and we had invested a lot of money in creating a outdoor camp, so we could not afford to sit idle, and we had to do something. So corporate training came as a secondary thing, but very soon it became the main sorry very soon it became the it was not by design but by default it became the major thing. So I started doing more of corporate training and less of schools. I always say till even now that my bread and butter comes from corporate training, but my jam still comes from schools and colleges. Coming back to leadership, I discovered when I started doing leadership and team building uh, programs for the corporate world, couple of things that we used to take for granted were not happening here. For example, time management. Every company that would come to us would come late. And then there was no sense of urgency and nothing. So I said, why don't aren't they on time? Whereas my training of in NDA starts from every day. If you are not on time, you're going to be punished. So it becomes a part of your habit, your DNA. And that is where I realized that the corporate people need some type of discipline that comes with the army into their leadership. There needs to be some type of system. There needs to be some extra amount of team building that they need to do to come to that level. Then another thing I found that decision making was very poor. So what I did was I picked up all those things from my leadership experience, which in the army were working very well, which of them could also relate to the corporate. We started making a uh, module or bringing those lessons out and got them in. That was very, very useful and it really worked very well for us. So that was the first part of what is military inspired leadership. How do I use my army principles in the corporate world? Now, there is a recent trend that has come up, and I've done about 8 to 10 keynotes in the last 6 months on Are You Future Ready? In the army, one of the principles of war is forethought or foresight. Can you look ahead? You have to be prepared for the future. Shweta, I hope you will agree, and most people agree, that army is known for its meticulous planning. When we go for war, we plan right to the last thing. Yet, our plans last only till the contact with the enemy is made. And the moment the contact is made with the enemy, we face chaos. And leaders in the army are all the time taught how to handle chaos. Thank you very much. I find a lot of people in the audience also uh, agreeing that yes, the army does it like that. So we handle chaos and we are prepared for the future. I brought that into all my speeches wherever I went on keynotes to talk about how to be prepared for the future. I linked it with what happened in the COVID. Now, people who look ahead and cater for contingencies that may happen, and in the army, for every plan, there's a contingency plan, and not one, there are a couple of them. We always uh, realize that if you have given a lot of thought of what can happen, what are the situations that can come up, and you prepare for them, you will be absolutely not taken by surprise by any event like COVID did, or like floods can, or like earthquakes can. So this is what I talk about being future ready. And it is not only a mindset, actually, it's a heart set. You have to build it in your heart that you're prepared. You embrace whatever has happened. You embrace its COVID. You embrace its 2611. You embrace it and say, okay, this has happened. Now, what do I do? You look ahead and handle that. And if you're prepared for it, you'll handle it better. I'll just give you one example. For example, in COVID, all people who are in business, there's a rule of any business that you must have some cash flow with you. They normally say at least 6 months cash flow you must have at any given time to cater for any contingency. And this contingency was not COVID. It could be a flood, it could be breakdown, fire, or whatever. And all those companies, all those organizations who didn't have any cash flow at the time of COVID, they crumbled within 2 months because they couldn't pay salaries. Whereas those people who had catered for it lasted longer, and some people who were agile, who were adaptive, who were creative, turned their businesses around and even made more money in business in COVID than otherwise. Even I did. Even when my training was doing better in COVID because we immediately transformed. I used to do a program called Train the Super Trainer, and I started doing a program called Train the Online Trainer. And I said, when the going gets tough, the tough goes online. So let's go online. And that is what I did. So, yes, so that was answering your two questions. Now, I would like to know a little more about, um, you know, when you're talking about coaching, what are the main challenges that you see that leaders today have? And what are the areas when you coach people? What do you think are the areas where most people get stuck and where they require your maximum coaching effort to come out of those obstacles?
I think not just only for the leaders, but otherwise as well. Where I find people getting stuck the most is when people start thinking that I know it all. I think that's where the growth of any human in any way it stops. I know it all. I am the leader. I have risen to this position with my experience, with my power, with my whatever reason they give to themselves. I always tell them one is the ultimate truth, and second is the stories that you keep giving to yourself. The day you stop learning, you're not a leader anymore. Amazing leaders from whom I have learned practically, and I would say the online trainings that I have taken, those are the leaders who had greater levels of empathy, quest to learn, quest to understand what their teams needed. Not as a leader, it is very easy for me to say that this is what I want to tell you, or this is what I want you to do. But what if that not every, like, if we don't have all the fingers of the same size, how can we expect different humans from our own team to be all alike? Even a classroom does not have the similar student level. I mean, the empathy level is different, the emotional quotient is different, so is the intelligent quotient. So you, as a leader, what you can do is to understand the need of your team first. One is that you know what you have to do, you know what kind of results you want. So the challenge that I mostly face, what I see people whom I coach, the leaders whom I coach, is that they are already wearing that crown that I am the king or I am the queen and I know it all. That's the biggest challenge. So the first thing which I do is I let them take off their guards that they have created for themselves. Oh, as a leader, I'm supposed to be like this. I am supposed to act like this. I am supposed to behave like this. So this supposed to has to go out. More empathetic approach that you have, better the leader you will be. Because you need to, end of the day, get results for your organization and also need to get the best of the productivity from your team. So you have to, it's as a balancing game wherein you know where you need to grow and you need to take your teams to, and also keep your teams motivated enough, inspired enough, and skilled enough to carry on with your journey till the level that you want to rise. So, spending time on the skill enhancement of yours and as well as of your team, being inspiring enough for your team so that you can be a leader, not by your words, not by saying that I am your boss, but by proving it to your team that they feel inspired enough to follow your footsteps. Like, for example, I read your bio, I saw your work online, and I wanted to come and talk to you. If you remember, even in HNP, I told you I was competing to bring in more visitors because I wanted to get your signed book, right? That is the inspiration. You didn't tell me come and I could have bought your book, but I wanted that particularly signed copy from you, so I made an effort. No one told me to do that. So a leader has to do the same thing. You do those kind of inspiring things in life. Leading means what? Leader, who is the leader? Who is leading? Who has capability of leading? That means you have capacity and capability to understand what your team wants. You are ready to hold their hand. When a child comes to a mother, the child knows that I won't fall. Even if I fall, my parent is going to catch me, hold me. I am safe, I'm secure. The same feeling your team has to feel, that I'm safe, I'm secure. And discipline, as you said, discipline goes long way. And how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you have discipline in one thing, you will have discipline in everything. Try it. Anyone who has not tried it, please pay attention to what you do. If you tend to ignore a thing, you have a tendency to ignore a lot of things. So you take a
Yeah.
clue from what you do. So if not, a lot of people think they are leaders. A lot of people think that they are ready for the leadership role, but not everybody is. Sometimes you need that skill enhancement. You need to cultivate that kind of culture in you. I call it a culture. Leadership is also a culture. You have to cultivate it. You have to design it. And if you don't, if you feel that you lack somewhere in becoming a right leader, I would say you please go and get yourself trained to become a good leader. And even if you know that you're a good leader, still, as we fondly say, even a coach needs a coach, even a leadership role holder, even that king or queen, needs that kind of skill enhancement. Because with the changing time, a lot of changes keep on happening. Sometimes you don't even realize how things are changing, how people are changing, how surroundings are impacting people. Your team members may have proper professional skill set, but what if there is something not right going on in their personal life? How well are you connected with them? How well do you understand their point of view as well? What if you are disciplined, what if they are not? As Brigadier Sushil said, that the thing that he noticed was lack of time management. It impacts people at a big level. I realized when I started my very first coaching program only for women, I realized one thing that they were really lacking was not the time management, but the financial management. So I made sure to incorporate that part in my coaching because I knew that without this, they will not be able to flourish. They'll not be able to come to that level wherein they need to be or where they can be. So that's how I look at it. But there are things which I want to ask you, if I may.
Yeah, please. And before that, just before you ask me something, I just wanted to say one or two things that you said. See, one is that our audience also is agreeing to two things that you said. Particularly that leadership has to be by setting an example. You have to lead by example. We in the army say lead from the front. And another thing, of course, they are saying is that self discipline is very important. And I just wanted to say that I feel whatever you learn, whatever you coach, whatever you do your self development, nothing can work till self discipline is in place. And self discipline is doing what you ought to do, even when nobody is watching you, and even when you don't feel like doing it. Majority of the times you'll say, I have to do it, but I don't feel like doing it right now. And then you have to tell yourself, and I just remember this definition every time I feel like today morning when I went for a walk and I'd had a fall 2 3 days earlier. So I was giving myself an excuse that, oh, I think I need to give my leg a little rest. And then I said, no, I need to walk my quota. So I've got a goal of doing certain steps on my pedometer, and I made sure I did them when I was not feeling like doing it at all. So that is self discipline. Another thing that I want to tell you is that I learned something very long ago, that everyone needs a coach. When I went for Tony Robbins' workshop in Australia, I heard him say that he has 5 coaches. So everyone needs a coach because the bottle can label cannot be read by the content of the bottle. You have to be outside yourself to know what's happening. So I was playing golf. I had started learning golf and I was doing some practice shots. And there was a coach who had come, and I had not taken his coaching because it was very expensive. And I thought, let me pick up some basics and then I'll take coaching. So somebody had told me you must go and hit 100 balls every day. So I was doing exactly that. So he came and stood in front of me. He had just finished his coaching session. Maybe he was walking down, and so he saw me for a while. And then he said, Brigadier, can I tell you something? I said, yes. He said, if you continue to do what you're doing, you will be so strong in your mistakes that you will never be able to come out of them. If you're going to hit 100 balls the wrong way, that wrong way is going to become your permanent way. So you need a coach who can tell you the right way. And he just corrected my stance a little bit, which made my game go to a different level. Okay, I could never become a good golfer, but at least I started playing reasonable golf. Okay, so yes, now go ahead with what you were saying. Sorry.
No, now actually continuing with what you were saying, I was thinking on, on my lessons of golf in Dubai. So very important lesson that reminded me was, so the style of that coach is that he takes you out for a golf, and I said, like, I haven't played golf for a very long time. I just took the basic training and never practiced much. He said, but this is how I coach. So pick up your stuff and let's walk. And he said, if you can play golf, you can become a very good coach and also a very good leader in your own industry. And I was like, how is that even related? You know, he said, that's how you build a vision. You really cannot see, or you cannot really even imagine how far can you go when you start, because you don't know whether you'll be able to walk that much or not. You cannot even count the steps you're going to take. You really don't know the exact. If I ask you how many steps you're going to take to reach to your end destination, can you tell me? I said, no, it's far. I can see that it's far, but that's about it. He said, that's the beauty. So there are things that you learn a lot with your coaches, and everybody has a different way. And With some, you connect so well that you remember them for life. Those lessons that you learn, you remember it for life. And definitely, I think one thing which I want to add is good sense of humor. If you can make people laugh, you can really, really bring the best of productivity from them. And I
I
make
would
sure,
I would say
yeah,
not only the sense of humor, but creating your workplace as a fun place. That is, overall, which means that you're open to listening to them, be empathetic, and mm, uh, don't expect too much of rigidity. If things have not been done, be a little kind to them, understand that they could have had a problem and things like that. So that makes a lot of difference. Yeah, so creative.
yes,
I always said, in my leadership trainings, the first thing I used to say was that this 3 days camp is going to be full of fun, and I'm going to tell you how to make your workplace a fun place. Very important.
very important. I think, yes, because people must look forward to coming to work. People must look forward. Like, I get up and I can't tell you, every day, there's not been a single day I wake up and I just want to finish my daily routine so that I can just go to my desk and start working. It keeps me so happy, so inspired, so pepped up, full of life, that you feel like doing it. That's how.
You get
And
primed up.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
I think even during my working days when I was doing a job, the clue used to be the day I thought that, oh my God, do I have to go to office? I knew something is off. Either I fix this or I better leave this workplace, because that's the beginning of a toxic relationship of yours with your workplace. So you need to
Absolutely.
take little clues, I think, from your life, and how do you see things, around you, with you happening, and move forward. So let me just ask you. I think you're the right person to ask me this thing. You have seen the world, which is a very disciplined world, very honest, very value driven, and then comes, which I say, the civilians side of life. You see the evolvement of future. How do you see the workforce, especially with the recent times? How significantly things have been changing, the transformation has been happening, the way people are learning and executing their roles of leadership, because you're also in the same space. I only take care of the brand and the positioning part, but I believe you've been doing it more holistically for the leaders. So what is your point of view? Where do you see that? What are the kind of gaps that the leaders need to fill in, and on what can be done slightly differently? People follow the regular norm, but is there something that they can do to break that glass ceiling?
Yeah. So, first thing is that I realized we in the army, when you said that from a very disciplined life, you come to a corporate life where things are a little more relaxed and this and that. One thing that the army taught us very well, and I have been in a leadership role, particularly for most of my life. Of course, I started off with being in the infantry, but in the ASC, I've been a logistician. So I've been a logistics leader. And we are structured in a way that every 2 years, we not only go to a new place, but we also go to a different role. So from animal transport to mechanical transport to supplies to POL, which is petroleum, oil, and lubricants, and all that, we keep changing our roles. So the army teaches you beautifully adaptability. You know how to work in the deserts. From the deserts, you'll go to high altitude. From high altitude, you will go into plains and all that. So you are very adaptable, and so are our children. They go from one school to another. My both my children have studied in 11 schools each. So uh, with this adaptability, a lot of people ask me that, yeah, I was surprised when I came to the corporate world to see some of that things that were not happening here, but I could easily adapt to it. because adaptability was a part of our life. We are very adaptable. Now, the second thing is you said that what are the gaps, and I found that, like what you said, leadership. There's a book by Dave Ulrich called "How to Build Your Personal Leadership Brand," and what he said, and that is relevant to both your subject as well as what the question you asked me. He said, all these years, how was leadership taught? Leadership was taught outside in, that these are the leadership qualities that exist, and this is how you imbibe them. Now you go to Google and say, what are the leadership traits or leadership characteristics, and you will find 40, 50, 60 of them. Can you become all of them? You can't. Do you need to become all of them? No. So he said, instead of having leadership that you learn from outside and then pass it on, that means inside out, that I know I am a leader and I am going to transfer this. He says, other way around, make leadership outside in. So he said 5 things that you need to know as a leader. What does my organization expect of me? What does my boss expect of me? What do my peers expect from me? What do my subordinates expect from me? And what do my stakeholders expect from me, including clients? Now, all that they do, see if that is relevant to you. And how are you going to bridge those gaps, bridge those things, that you make yourself relevant to the market you're working in? A very interesting example is that if you're a leader in Walmart, and Walmart is known for its economy, that that you will get the products cheapest there. So everyone in the organization goes by one fundamental theme or principle: economy, cutting costs all the time. Now the same leader now leaves Walmart and goes to, let's say, Mercedes, where Mercedes economy is, of course, cutting costs is required by every company, but the emphasis, the theme of that company is what? Quality, not economy.
Okay.
Now he has to change his leadership brand according to the what the organization is expecting, what the client is expecting, and therefore a leader has to be very adaptable. He has to fit into the type of role he has got, and also a leader. In my coaching sessions with leaders, I've been covering about how you should be leading your immediate people, your first level reportees, and how do you ensure that that impact is felt on the second and third level reportees. No, you never meet them, you don't know them directly, but yet you need to know them indirectly. And everything that is happening down till the last must be known to you. And what you are doing must impact them. So, this makes it that you have to have a mechanism where what you are inspiring your first level reportees to do who are in direct touch with you, how you are also having a system to ensure that that is getting transmitted or disseminated downwards. Then there's another thing. In an organization, it's not only about what I hear from my boss and I pass it on to others. I also have to see what's happening on my left and right. What are my peers in other departments doing? What are they doing and how are they helping? So that is where leaders also have to have a teamwork with the other people, to exchange ideas with them and see how they are handling their teams. So leadership is a very complex and yet a very simple thing. If you are human, if you are empathetic, you can be a good leader. And in the military leadership, I'll tell you, there are 2 things. uh, Army leadership boils down to 2 things. One is the accomplishment of the mission. We always tell our people, you have to accomplish the mission come what may. Because we can't have, we can't have, like in the corporate, you're happy with 70% target. I can't do that. I can't say I captured this objective 70%. In our case, the success is either 100% or zero. There's nothing in between. Okay. So, accomplishment of mission at all costs. And secondly is welfare of soldiers. You can't be having unhappy soldiers going with you to war. So, how do you take care of their well being? How do you? These two things, and both of them, there's a very, very thin balance. If you are too welfare oriented, your mission will not be accomplished. And if you are too mission oriented, your welfare will not be there and the mission will again not be accomplished. So, this is what I bring into corporate leadership as well.
Lovely. I think both of us have almost a similar core value system because I traveled a lot with my parents, and my children travel a lot with me. And reason I do that is more exposure brings more flexibility, more adaptability, and better experiences. Same thing which I tell my clients: explore. Even if you are the leader of your organization, you must meet even other leaders and see how they are leading their organizations. There is someone or other who is doing either at par with you or even better than you. You always need to learn. There are small things that you learn from each other. As you said, either there is 0% or 100%. That was the lesson which I learned from my very first job in Stan Chart Bank. So I was trainee. My boss told me very nice. He said, there is one way how we do it. You can either learn that, or after the training, you can do it your way. But end of the day, work has to be done. The results have to be there. It's not the number of hours that you clock in. It is the result that you bring in, what you bring on tables. That was my very first lesson. And the very second lesson that I learned, after a month, the monthly meeting, I saw everyone was talking about when is that person going to come? When is that person going to come? And it's like, who is this VIP for whom everyone is waiting? And later I came to know it was a star employee of the bank, a person who used to sell. I was in the auto loan department. So everybody was targeting how many number of cars you need to sell, and what kind of revenue you will bring in. And that person used to only and only focus on selling the luxury car. So what he would do is, when you said Mercedes, it reminded me, he would only sell preferably a Merc or like the top brands. So he needed to only sell two cars. And the moment he sold three cars, he was anyway way ahead of everybody else in the team, wherein it was very difficult for anybody to catch hold of him, or the level of his targets. So that's how you learn things. And it caught my attention. I was like, wow, you don't really have to work hard, you can work smart. So the same thing, in the coaching, when they said, what kind of coaching do you want to do? Do you want to do like a absolute base level, or you want to do the high ticket selling? I said, I cannot do the base. I've been doing only high ticket selling, because even the areas wherein I worked, the luxury retail, you don't think of smaller brands. But then that's what inspired me to coach people, that how do you take your small businesses or business at an average scale to a brand level. How do you scale up? It is not difficult, it is absolutely doable, it is very simple. You just have to follow a system. Like, you come from the defense background, so you understood that, if your soldiers are well fed, well taken care of, if they're healthy enough, that's how there is a greater attention paid to their physical strength as well, because that's what they need, and also on their mental agility. So that is what has been helping the entire nation. Any country, they benefit from their soldiers, the betterment or the wellness of their soldiers. It helps us indirectly. The same way, a leader taking care of his own skill set, his own mental and physical ability, is going to help his team. The entire organization is going to benefit. So I think it is very important to draw those lessons which we get from our surroundings, from us, around us. I think the time is of essence, and before we move out, I wanted to ask a few questions, Brigadier Sushil, if I may ask.
Yeah, just
I
before that,
Mm-hmm.
because we are coming to the end. Firstly, I want to thank Colonel Aditya, Colonel Daljit. I am seeing him after a very long time, and Abha. They are all three of my TTOT students, and I'm very happy that they are here. Thank you very much. Thank you, Anand. Anand Shetty is also coming up very with good ideas. Now, what I wanted to say before Shweta gets on to the next question is, please write down your questions so that at the end we can answer them. And also, when you write something in the comments, we also get to know that you are there. Otherwise, I see very few names and I see more number on the counts up there. So please do participate. Okay. Yes. Go ahead, Shweta.
Yes, thank you so much. I heard you. You said time creatorship. Well, it does sound great, but what does it apply? And you also, before you shoot me down, let me say the second question as well. You invest on investing time and not spending it. You insisted on that part. So, if you could please, these two simple questions.
Yeah. So in my time management programs that I've been doing, and I've written this book called Design Your Life. Sorry, $1 million second, which is on time management. I have been coming out with some peculiar things which may people, sometimes they intrigue people, and people wonder what it is. Uh, of course, I have started many of my workshops by saying time management is dead. Okay. And anyway, that's a different story for another day. But your two questions, when I say time creatorship, for good about 2 3 years, when I started talking about time management, I was always saying, like most people would say, that you have 86,400 seconds in a day, nothing less, nothing more. And then I suddenly realized that no, you can create time. You can have more time in a day than 24 hours. When a lady in the house uh, appoints a maid, what has she done? She has paid for 8 hours of her time so that she can do those things which she need not do, and then find time for her kitty parties and beauty parlors. You found time, or watching your TV. Now that means, even in a company, for example, uh, the the managing director can't do anything himself. So he is given people, so he buys time. So your salary is actually the price of time of your employees that you pay. So you can create time by delegation, by empowerment, and all that. So if I can't do something, I make somebody else do it. That means I'm creating time. That is what I mean by time creatorship. And in my program, we discuss a lot of very interesting things on how to create time. When I talk about time investment, I say that your mind is very, very sensitive to the words you use. So when you say, I'll spend 30 minutes with you, my mind straightaway takes me to spending, which on a balance sheet is something like gone, wasteful, spent away, goes into the dustbin. That is what expense means. When you say invest, my subconscious mind starts looking for where's the return. So when I say I want to have a cup of coffee with you and invest 30 minutes with you, I am looking at what is the best thing I'm going to get out of this conversation. It may not be a business meeting. It could be just that I meet you to have, just a normal casual conversation, maybe remember our good old days, maybe just talk about our families or whatever. Means I am going to enjoy my conversation with you. What is the value I'm going to get out of these 30 minutes? So if I go home and my wife says, "How was your meeting with your friend?" And if I say, "Oh my God, he came and he started talking about how bad his life was, how bad his wife was, how bad the traffic was," it probably brings you so much of negativity that it you go back and spend another 30 minutes to get out of that mood. So that means you have wasted your time. And there are also some other corollaries to that when you talk about hourly worth. If you know what your worth of an hour in terms of rupees is, because we don't understand time as much as we understand. uh, there's
Money.
something coming up for you, I think. We don't understand so much of time as we understand currency. So I equate that and say, what is your hourly worth, which I learned from Brian Tracy, and we've been talking a lot about this. I've got Daljit asking a question, and he says, uh, HR, the hierarchy and processes make a beautiful system. But what differentiates an army and corporates is the support system, hand holding, and welfare, which Brigadier Sushil Basin was mentioning. Okay, I thought it was a question, but yes.
Hmm.
So that is probably he's answering that question of those voids. You know, I'll tell you, for example, going, expanding on little on what Colonel Diljit is saying. In the corporate, you bond as individuals, as colleagues. In the army, we bond as families. I don't think in any company one colleague would know other colleagues' wives or children as much as we know. They may know just as a coincidence one or two people, but today you can ask my children, they'll tell you my IC number, they tell you my regiment, they'll tell you everything. So they know they belong to it. If there's a football match going on between two battalions, you will find the ladies and the children so enthusiastically cheering up for their teams. They feel they belong to it. So
I,
that doesn't
I
happen in the corporate world.
it doesn't happen very often, but I believe a lot of the credit goes to, again, good leaders and to the HR departments. I would say most of the corporates which I see, they've been trying to inculcate the similar work ethics, wherein bringing the families together, creating that bond, creating that emotional connect within the organization by knowing and going, reaching out to their families. And COVID, I think, to some level, did a great job in bonding people once again. People realize the worth of human relationships, because the only thing which was helping during those odd times was the human relations. So
Anyway,
yes,
Shweta,
yeah, it is in, yeah.
in my 18 years, I have yet to come across a company who can boast of their families bonding. I don't even
Really?
know of one. I've recently done training of a company in which they got the families only to observe what's happening. But it is very rare. If I know a company where people have that type of a bonding, I'll be surprised.
I
I've
then I need to invite you to Delhi, and I can give you exemplary. I mean, I thought it was little too much. I told the leader, I said, "Don't you think like you're doing little too much?" I thought maybe she's a lady boss, but she said no. The family has to know the worth
I
of
just want the
their
numbers of
children.
no. I just want the number of such companies.
Yeah,
Handful,
very little. Very, yes,
handful.
handful.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I
Okay,
hope
we
this
got another
tradition goes
comment
out.
come up here.
Mhm.
Comment from Anand. The greatest education in leadership and entrepreneurship in this global jobless gig economy post lockdown is watching the master at work. God bless you, Sushi. Okay. So thank you, Anand. Yes, it's a very important point. Now we can't talk about gig economy at this time because we only 2 minutes left. But
Right.
although we are not very strict about time, but we normally try to keep it to 1 hour, but we can spill over by 5-10 minutes. Uh, so thank you very much for that point. Yes, we all uh, need to look at that coaching and leadership go hand in hand. Your leadership development can be best done by coaching, whether you have an in-house coach in your own organization or you take a personal coach who coaches you in leadership. I'd like to end this discussion with one last question to Shweta, to say that if there's anyone in the audience who is looking to become a coach as a professional leadership coach, what are the uh, what is the advice you like to give that person? And also along with that, I also want you to touch upon uh, the role of a leader coaching his own people, because I think that is another very important thing, that a leader needs to coach people.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you very
Yeah.
much for asking this. A very, what can I say, a very valuable question that you have asked. This has become more like a trend, and people like to follow trends. So much of buzz being around that, oh, you should become a coach, you should become a coach, or you should become like an author. I'm doing a TV series wherein like the next episode is going to be on why people should write a book. I wrote a book on why and how to write a book. The same way, I think someone needs to write a book why you should become a coach, because people think it's an alternative profession. Because I have worked a lot or I know a skill, I can become a coach. Only become a coach if you are ready for greater level of understanding of others. It's not about what you know. I may have had 20 plus years of experience in branding and marketing and sales, but perhaps I worked in 7 industries. But when you become a coach, you're going to cater to people who are from the varied industries with different challenges, something that you may have never faced. What will you do by then? So you need to have that resistance of staying in the game, that kind of discipline, self discipline, and greater level of consistency and resilience in you. It's not going to be easy how it is being portrayed, that it is very easy. Yes, learning, getting the certification, the entire education of the process of becoming a coach is super easy, wonderful. But when it comes to implementing, there is a lot which goes behind the scene. When you, what you see is the movie, 3 hour movie or 2 hour movie on screen, super glamorous, amazing. But what goes behind making that movie is what coaching is all about. So there is a greater level of hustle, there is a greater level of understanding, and it is, you will evolve. More you will coach people, more you will evolve. So it will take time for you to actually become the right coach. And a very unfortunate part that there are a lot of coaches whom I see now, uh, who are really not apt, who are really not there to become. Just because they have a certification, they have a right to say that, we are coaches. Just like not every doctor is that effective or that good just by having that degree under their belt, just by becoming an MBBS. That is why
I think
they're
you have to have it in the
bound to
heart.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You have to have it
absolutely.
in the heart, and you have to be. I think the first requirement of a coach is to be empathetic. You have to understand
Empathetic.
that
Yeah.
person. And it's like you said, it's not about me, it's about the coachee. You have to understand what he or she is looking at, and how do you focus there, and how do you look at that person succeeding more than you want to succeed, because that is
True.
your aim.
True.
We got
And
Rashmi
then
who's
come.
coming up with it as a support to you, to say that as an HR head of Crompton Greaves, we created a ladies club. So it's very good. Rashmi, I'm very happy to hear this, because I haven't come through, but I'm happy to see that more people are talking about it. And I can assure you, and I can assure all viewers here, that this is one big difference when we go into the war. We are very sure that when I go, my family will be taken care of. We are only having one complaint with the government now, that when there are war widows today who are not being taken care of by the government. The OROP is taking, there are 8 years, and people who needed that money have died already, and the
Hmm.
government still keeps postponing and not giving the money. That's a different matter. But we know that the units will take care, we'll know that our colleagues will take care, and all that is very, very important. And bonding together as families is very strong, very thick. Anand has asked a question, and I think we'll take that as a last question directly for Shweta. And he has said that, I'm curious to know, how can academicians transition into professional coaching in this golden digital age of unlimited possibilities?
Thank you very much, Anandji, for asking such a lovely question. It doesn't matter what background you come from, you can always be a coach because you have a skill now. A skill, something that can be taught to others. So, first thing is having that core value of being a giver, that I am going to empower other person. So when you become a coach, please stick to your skill set, your experience, and what you're passionate about. That should be your niche. So what happens is people think that, oh, financial coaching is very much in. This is going to give better returns. Let me become a financial coach. Please do not make a mistake of just following the trend or what is going to be profitable enough. Everything will give you profit as long as you know your trade. When you know what you have to coach, when you know what you can teach, what you can talk about, you are going to become the problem solver. As long as you can solve the problem, you have it in you and you are very happy to do that for the lifetime. I always say, think of creating a legacy. When you think from that point of view, that means you're going to become an absolute giver with your best efforts. That is when you should get into the coaching. And it's a wonderful profession for all those people who've been looking for ways to contribute in society, who've been looking to create a better society, not just for themselves, but for everyone. You empower yourself by empowering others. So I think great times India is seeing. We're having a lot of great coaches now. We don't really need to go out of our country, how Brigadier Sushil or I had to go and get trained. There are amazing set of people coaching and guiding our communities here now. So build communities, that's what I do. I create community of the business owners who are committed to grow in their life and they're helping each other. So the best part of being a coach is you get the army of people who are ready to help each other, and that happens when you pass on your value system to them. So they, you handhold them and they're handholding others, and that's how the chain reaction is happening. And I think soon India is going to become the educational capital of the world. We are going to bring in amazing leaders, and we are anyway leading globally. Most of the multinationals are being led by Indians. So soon it is going to happen that India is going to have best of the leaders in every household, and I'm hoping that I get to see this India soon in my lifetime. So thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, thank you so much, Shweta. Thank you so much for enlightening us with all the aspects of coaching that were very important. And thank you for sharing your experiences. Thank you to all the participants who were actively participating. There were some who never wrote, so I don't know who they were. But those who have been participating, Colonel Aditya, Ranbir Yadav, Apurva Khajuria, Saurabh Patil, then
Miss Abha and
Abha Jadhav is a director of a school. She was a teacher when I started with her training of a school, and she was a teacher. Now she, in just about 6 years, from a teacher to a principal to a director. Okay, and Anand Shetty. Yeah, so thank you all for being there and investing your time. I hope you got some returns. And do write your comments, and all those who are going to watch this as a recording, please do write your comments. And if there are any questions, and both me and Shweta will be certainly happy to answer those questions in whatever platform you are listening to. Thank you very much, Shweta, once again, and
thank you, thank
goodbye.
you, thank you, Brigadier
Goodbye.
Sachin. Thank
And
you.
keep watching this space for the announcement of the next one. We are generally going to look at first and third Wednesdays of each month now, but that may not be rigid. So, uh, but it'll be Wednesday. So let's be tuned in into the next date and the next guest, and we'll look forward to more people coming in. Thank you very much. All the best.
Thank you.